And then what did you do after that?
The short version is I went to work at the Lake Alfred headquarters office with my father. And there wasn't this really clear plan laid out for where we were going to go. We had citrus and land, and there were people managing that, and there wasn't a really clear opportunity for me. I wasn't going to drive a tractor in the Grove.
Right.
So I had to figure stuff out, and I considered leaving for a bit and going and learning some other skills. The people I talked to about that kind of discouraged that. So about that time, my parents had launched a mobile home park, and they had a partner in that, and there was need for additional personnel there. And I went to the mobile home park and got my real estate license and began to learn sales training, as well as marketing, as well as customer service. And so it was a great training ground again. It was a terrible business model because we were selling lots in a marketplace where 90% of the other vendors were renting the lots, and that was the accepted model, and everybody was, it made it a cheaper investment for the buyer. And at that time, that was right about the time the interest rates were peaking at 18%. So people that had money in a CD were not interested in pulling it out to pay for that lot. So it was a very difficult time for that business. Our timing was just unfortunate. But I did learn a tremendous amount. And that's where I became the customer service department there. I basically created it. I mean, otherwise the people that were doing sales were, when somebody needed help or had a problem, they had to pull off of something else to take care of that. And I was too young to be taken seriously as a salesman in that industry. And you remind me of my grandson.
Or your great-grandson.
Could you call an adult for me to talk to? Right. That's kind of the conversation we had a couple of times, and so no.
More than a couple of times, if I recall.
So me switching into customer service and the process, what I had learned at the egg farm about processes and process improvement and systems really worked well for me there. Because I became the person who, when a new home came in, I did an inspection. We had to have 2 or 3 inspections. We had one when it first came in to see if there was anything. Well, as soon as it was, so mobile homes come in 2 parts and they had to be put together. So we had a crew that came in and did all that. And as soon as they put the 2 together, I went in and did an inspection and determined if there were any big things. Like sometimes something would shift or break in transit. So I would start a list on that. And then once we finished kind of all of the finished work and setup and everything, then I would do another inspection to make sure it was ready for the customer. Because the last thing you want is somebody moving into their home and then finding 50 things that you didn't know about and presenting you with this list, or they're hopping mad, right? So it was all about making that move in, that initial experience for the customer a really positive experience. And part of it was pre-framing that there's going to be things that they're going to need fixing. Okay, we've got a list, and here's the list. I'll take you through, and I'll show you all these things. Live in the house for a week and a half, something like that, and add to the list. And when we feel like we found everything, then we have the factory folks come and fix it all at once.
Cool.
Good with that? And I mean, it made all the difference in the world.
Sure.
So I was really, really good at that and really learned a lot about customer service in the process. And the age difference was much less of a concern there.
Right.
Wow, we've
but
we didn't plan this. We didn't script it, and so
this is where we need to go, though.
These are the
this is all part of your history.
This is how I built up the skill set that I built.
Right.
So I built, I learned about process and systems, and I could talk for an hour about the stuff from the egg farm and the things that I learned about keeping eggs fresh. Right. Remember the oil? We put mineral oil on the eggs. So we had to, if somebody wanted to have eggs for dyeing for Easter, we had to make sure we had eggs that didn't have the oil applied to them because the dye wouldn't stick.
Right.
And so we had to plan for that.
Right.
But the oil kept the interior of the egg from evaporating through the shell, so it kept the eggs fresher a month longer than unoiled eggs.
Right.
And it was a tiny little spend for us, but it made a much higher quality product.
Right.
And so things like that were just kind of baked into me through experience. So then my next project was I became involved with actually bought a product, a software product, and it was a membership product and software included. So this was the first time I know of selling something with the model that we now see, a subscription product that we see everywhere now. First one I'd ever seen, and it was kind of a high-end product, so that made sense. But it was investment related and trading related, and I became just fascinated with the science and the mystery behind this thing. And I don't like secrets. I don't like mysteries. I want to solve them. So, it was a match made, I guess. So anyway, I was asked to develop,
eventually,
within about 2 or 3 years. So I became very knowledgeable about this product, asked a lot of questions, and developed and this was again before really we had email so much. So I had a letter writing campaign going back and forth with the owner of this company. The questions I was asking, I was sending him charts and asking, and he would send back answers, and he liked that I was doing that. And I became his best student. And because he was willing to share with me, I learned a lot. I learned faster. I learned stuff that nobody else knew.
Right.
And so then he asked me he wanted to expand his business and create a new division, but he didn't want to run it.
That know, like, and trust thing.
Yeah. And so he asked me if I'd be interested in doing that. And our business running with the citrus and the cattle and so forth, I had more free time than a lot of people in business do. So I said, yes, I would love to do that. And again, I saw that as an expansion, sort of an expansion on our business, because I became now a consultant. I was now creating a new profit center for our business. And I did that for well over 10 years. And
we also did coaching.
I did. Our history of coaching goes back to before we met.
That's another day.
Another podcast. But I was talking to people about how helping them use this product. But that expanded very naturally and unavoidably into helping them with their computer problems, because this was a piece of computer software that was very early days of Windows. In fact, I was using it before Windows. It was a DOS-based product. And then, as Windows came along, it transitioned. And so I was helping them operate their computers and deal with those issues, as well as understanding how to apply this product, to the decision support that I was.
And you were also doing the bug finding for the programmer who was building this from scratch, and you became his right-hand man.
Yes, I was so involved with him that he... I was using the software every day and testing, trying everything. And when a new version came out, I tried the new features, and I seemed to be able to find bugs.
Yeah, we call him Johnny Bug Finder, in case anybody.
Yes, that's one of my Connie nicknames.
That's right.
But he said I was the best software bug finder and tester that he'd ever worked with.
And you still do.
And he was a career programmer. I mean, back to the early days of when they had the big reels of tape and stuff. So customer service skills, process development, all came into play there, and I just continued to evolve that. And because I was also using the product and doing my own trading as I was helping these other traders, so I really knew I was a customer as well as doing customer support. So I could relate to their situation in a way that a lot of customer support can't. Right. I mean, I was on both sides.
You were a product of the product.
I was a product of the product, exactly. And trading is very personal in that it shows all of your psychological flaws to you. Your fears. When you're taking a lot of risk, financial risk, and at that time it was the futures market, so they were big swings. You could easily lose $1,000 in a day, and that can really play havoc on your mind. And I experienced that, and so I learned to help them manage that and be aware of it, and as best you can. I mean, it's a personal journey, so everybody has to do their own.
Well, and you also developed that into workshops that we went all over the country.
Yep. We started doing stock workshops, and then we started traveling and doing those around the country, and that was a great experience.
Oh, it was. That was more fun.
So that was, again, a combination of some coaching, some customer support. We had Joseph travel with us, and he was doing
that was great. Yeah,
software support during the workshop. We had a great time with that, and served the customers at a higher level, and they got to have instead of just calling me on the phone, or this was before Zoom, so instead of calling me on the phone or just getting this newsletter in the mail, they got to have some FaceTime. I wrote a monthly newsletter for that. I did a form of programming to automate most of the work that went into that newsletter, because it was hours and hours of work otherwise. So I wrote that. I was able to turn that newsletter into that was, again, part of that process development. I was learning Excel, and I thought I wanted to be a computer programmer and write the kind of programs like the charting programs that I was using. During this period, I was bilingual with both DOS, Windows, and the Mac world, and using both.
And this was before the internet, so we had a big satellite dish outside.
It was early days of the internet, very early days. That was happening. CompuServe and AOL was coming along,
just starting.
Email was a thing, but in particular the real-time data that we needed for that kind of trading. If you were going to do longer-term trading where you were making decisions once a week,
buy and hold.
Then you could use newspaper. There were papers and charts that were mailed out and so forth. You could wait. You might remember I got the Wall Street Journal, and every night I would go through the Wall Street Journal and type the prices into the software so it could update the prices. But at some point, if you're going to trade on shorter term and you need a real-time data feed, then that didn't exist over the internet.
Yeah.
It wasn't fast enough. We still had just dial-up, and so you had to have a satellite dish, and we had that. So I've worn a lot of hats, and I've learned a lot of skills, and some of them have aged out. I don't think I'm going to be doing any satellite dish alignment or installation anymore.
Oh, that was always fun.
But it gave me a lot of perspective on different kinds of work, and I think that I bring that into our present work.